What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Run Pure Sports lineup review show for week 15. Crazy, man. It's already week 15 of the NFL season. And the typical host of the show, Mr. Mangone, is not here, but I did bring on my friend, Mr. Big T, who will be filling in and making fun of my teams this week. Can't wait to dive into it. Welcome to the show, my friend.
What's going on? Yeah, we've done one of these. I forget which week it was, but I was like hopping on and reviewing, and I can't make fun of you when I don't cash anything either. I think yesterday I got close to a donut back yesterday, so
Yeah,
I can't make fun of you this week.
Yeah, I mean it was a tough week, but I mean the one thing, man, these running quarterbacks, I mean, are just like breaking these slates. Like you have to these guys, you had three, well, specifically, I mean, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray. I mean, you basically needed one of those guys in tournaments to even have a chance. Ton of big scores. What we're gonna do for the show today, we'll do my FanDuel cash lineup, and then we're gonna hit on the FanDuel Millionaire Maker, which was won by a friend of ours, Mr. Head Chopper, and we'll discuss his team. Then we're going to discuss the live final over there on DK. The first thing we have up is my cash team. We're going to talk about that first. And I mean, the way we'll go through, I'm going to just kind of talk about the guys that were locks for me and then like the decision points. So the guy that at quarterback, I felt I wanted Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson had been on a couple showdown slates that Tony and I have broken down. And what was it, 2 or 3 weeks ago against the Cowboys? We felt it was like a get right spot for the Ravens offense. And that was exactly the case, because after that game, like these guys have just been rolling. Lamar Jackson kind of got back to what he was doing. And he turned out to be a good play. 30 fantasy points I felt good about. But the problem was that the two other guys that were in the cash game consideration, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, both dusted his ass in the afternoon. So made it, a little bit difficult. Actually, before we fully dive into this, make sure to hit the like button. We're doing this for free. Like button, subscribe button. NBA is starting tomorrow. And we have a promo going, Buckets 15. If you sign up on Run Pure Sports and use the code Buckets 15, you get 15% off your subscription for life, as long as you don't cancel. You can add the bets portion of our website for $20. And then we have, if you're a premium member, you can check out all our Showdown content for tonight. If you're watching this before the game kicks off, we just recorded our Showdown video that's live on the site, and we'll have a playbook to go along with it. So a lot of stuff there, but head on over to the site. Buckets 15 gets you 15% off for life. So like I was saying, I felt good about Lamar Jackson. He got 30. The problem is those other quarterbacks that went off in the afternoon kind of dusted his ass. So, his 30 ended up not being all that good in cash games. The other locks, Tony Pollard, 4.7K. Looking at some of the ownership in tournaments, makes me believe that there's still a pretty big edge in all this stuff, because he should have been the lock of all locks at 4.7K. We've been waiting for this chance to play Pollard without Zeke. We get it. He did get the long touchdown at the end that really propelled him, but he's just better than Zeke, right? I think he's just a better running back.
Yeah, and it was just a free square. It's always good to get the free square, especially on FanDuel. When we get to DK, it was a little thinner on DK, but still a great play. But FanDuel, anytime you can get a running back in a pretty good spot for basically minimum price, free square. Even in this cash game where we're looking at, he's at 85%, which sure sounds high, but 15% freaking faded him, and that's still edge, even the 15%.
That's wild, yeah. So once you get the Pollard free square, once we get the Pollard free square, I feel like you have to play Kelsey at tight end. He's just been so steady, so consistent. Almost a lock to be around 20 fantasy points. They're using him in a variety of ways. You just play him, and then Alvin Kamara obviously was a big time lock with Michael Thomas out and Drew Brees back. But that was a rough start, man, for the Saints. Like, it just killed that game. I was heavily exposed to that game in tournaments. Just killed it when your boy, he's part of the noodle arm crew, right? When he can't even complete it. Couldn't complete a pass. And these weren't even like passes that were kind of in the vicinity of wide receivers. Like, his first 5 or 6 passes, I feel like you or I could have done a better job.
Yeah, he might be the ultimate. We make jokes about other people, but he might be the captain of the noodle arms, because he had like Brady we make fun of, but he's got a pretty good arm still.
Yeah.
Breeze, I mean, he has a total noodle arm.
Yeah.
Some of those like out patterns he was throwing were chili dipping in there, and it was really bad for sure.
It was a tough scene. I mean, Kamara ended up getting there towards the end. He gets that touchdown. Other guys that I felt relaxed, like I really wanted. We talked about it on the Wood Show. Ayuk, he was popular, but man, his workload, his target share is just massive. He was obviously high owned. I thought Sanders was. I mean, Sanders ended up getting close at the end in garbage time, essentially, or they were playing from behind, so he got close. And then Cooks was the last guy in. He just kind of fit in this lineup. I felt Akers was. I mean, the conversation at running back was Akers, it was Pollard, it was Kamara, and Derrick Henry, and you had to basically fade one of them. Pollard was a lock, Kamara was a lock, so then for me it kind of came down to Akers and Henry. Felt really good about Akers at home against the Rams. I mean, probably the most surprising game of the season, the Jets beating the Rams, and he never got anything going. Did get 15 carries, had 2 touchdowns called back. You just ran really bad with Cam Akers, and that was probably kind of the difference maker. Like if he gets those touchdowns, probably have a little better of a week. Didn't get the touchdown. A lot of people ended up playing this team. This was like a 20-person 109 50-50. A lot of people ended up playing this same team. So yeah, in first place they played Fournette over Akers. So I mean, Akers was really the big difference maker in this lineup. And Fournette, wow, how good did people run that ended up playing Fournette this week? He couldn't move.
Me because I thought he was a terrible play. Even before the Pollard news, I thought he was a terrible play.
Yeah,
it was an even worse play after Pollard news, and we're gonna get to the head shopper in a minute. He had him too, so. Sometimes it's better to be lucky and fall into the 1-yard touchdowns than it is to be good. You got to be lucky too. Make no mistake about it. So,
what was the stat line prior to falling in the end zone? Wasn't it like 8 carries, 3 yards, 1 catch, negative like 8 yards or something? It was the craziest stat line ever.
Even at the end, I mean, he's 14 for 49. That's terrible. Like 2 touchdowns. I mean, if you take he's at 4.9 points without maybe he had a catch or something. Too.
He ended up getting a couple of catches too at the end. Yeah,
it's just a total scrub play. I mean, so the team. Just looking at your team, like obviously I don't know cash like you guys do, but I always feel like you guys don't pay up for D. You guys paid up.
Yeah, usually don't. The spot just was so damn good, and there wasn't really a cheap D that I loved. So like. And then you get prior to Pollard news, I probably wasn't playing Rams D, but then once you get the Pollard news, just opens up everything. You can get, Kelsey that we really wanted. You can get the top D. Typically don't pay
up. What was the Henry build? Like what did the Henry build?
You would have had to basically.
You would have punted D, obviously.
You would have gone a cheaper D.
So the Cowboys D would have saved you $1,400.
Yeah. So and then you probably couldn't have played Kelsey basically. If you went Henry, you couldn't have played Kelsey. You would have landed on like I don't know, like Hawkinson or maybe Jared Cook or someone like that. I mean that's basically
Kelsey gave you a nice floor though. Like Kelsey.
Yeah, I mean he's just if you can get him in cash, like you almost have to play him because these other tight ends are just so crappy. I mean they're just not good. So you almost have to pony up any week you can. So. Yeah, I mean the team. I'd probably run it back again. I mean it's one of those weeks where a lot of people ended up on it. It was probably the right build for cash games. If the slate was ran again, I don't know if I'd really change anything else. Like I said, you ran bad kind of with the Akers thing. Like the Akers, he had 2 touchdowns called back. If he gets one of those, the week's better. You're never pegging the Rams defense for 2 points against the Jets. If they play that game back again, I think there's no doubt that they get much more than 2 actual fantasy points. So
I think you ran bad too because it's like just looking at the team. I'm not being results oriented at all. Literally, the 3 guys that I wouldn't feel confident with fantasy wise are Akers, Cooks, and the defense.
Yeah,
and they're the 3 that let you down. It's gonna some people that are watching are like, well, yeah, they scored the least. But honestly, if we talked yesterday morning, I would have said the same thing. Like the 3 I'm least confident about are those 3, and they're the ones that let you down. So it's like.
anytime that's the case, yeah, you're more likely than not you're probably gonna have a pretty bad week.
Yeah, because I mean the rest are locks. I mean Lamar looks like a lock to me in cash, and he was 5,500. Ayuk I didn't like, but he was a lock. Kelsey I think's a lock. Kamara, like it's just those three spots. So it's like, and look at his team against you. So he's got Lenny, Tyreek, Dallas D, and he gets he beats you by 30 points, and it's literally that close. And like Akers is a way better play than Lenny. Obviously, Tyreek is way better than Cooks, obviously.
Yes.
But then the D, so
yeah, that's the difference, the 13-point difference in the D. I mean, it's with these cash games, it's a fine line. This team returned some money. I think it ended up being a slight loser on the week. But so many people just on the same stuff. I mean, the other quarterbacks that were in play, like I said, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, they both went bonkers. But we're gonna, I mean, there's not too much more to say about it. I mean, it ended up being a very cut and dry week on FanDuel because of Pollard. I mean, Pollard at 4.7K, he should have been 100%. I mean, just such a good play. We're gonna talk about our boy Chop though, man. Chop, head shopper, legend in the industry, a friend of ours. We both worked with him in the past. Just, I mean, most humble dude. We always say, just such a humble guy. I don't think he even tweeted out that he won this contest, and this is the second $2 million win he's had. Actually got, I mean, his bad beat at that U.S. Open like 6 years ago, I mean, was probably the worst bad beat in a Millie Maker. If you guys don't know, I believe it was U.S. Open, right?
Yeah.
It was U.S. Open. And this is when Millie Makers weren't all that prevalent. Now there's like 4 of them a week. Like in the past, like that was big for $1 million contest. So it's U.S. Open, $1 million contest. He's coasting to a victory. He has Dustin Johnson. Dustin Johnson on the last hole hits it to 15 feet, right?
I mean, tops, 10 to 15 feet downhill. Yeah.
Yeah, so a 2-putt for the win. He just needed Dustin Johnson to 2-putt.
On top of it, Dustin Johnson needed a 2-putt.
To win, to win the tournament. So, I mean, Chop wins, DJ wins with the 2-putt. The first, it was kind of like a downhill putt, if I recall right. I remember watching
downhill one. It was a tricky one, but
it was a tricky downhill putt. It was only 15 feet away. I think he slid it past, he slid it past by what, 4 or 5 feet.
Yeah,
and then missed it. And Chop ends up, it was like a $900,000 swing.
When that happens to you too, you have to think in your head like it's just not meant to be. I'm not going to hit the Millie.
Yeah,
I had my chance. It's over. Yeah. And then he comes back and wins 2 more.
He proceeds to, he won, I think, week 1 of last season, he hits the Millie. And then right here, obviously, this week, he hits the Millie again. Big win. And, we're going to talk about his team. But, I mean, it's another team where you're not looking at much correlation. And, Mangone and I have done these shows now for a few weeks, and we're seeing a lot of non-correlated teams winning these large field tournaments. I mean, is there any reason in your head that this could be happening? Or are people overthinking it with all this correlation stuff?
So it's definitely happened more recently too. Like, so 2 weeks ago, we talked on the wood about Hurts, how he's just a really good play. And then this week, he was clearly one of the best plays. And one of the nice things about him is you don't have to play anyone with him. Let you kind of just play the other guys. I still think correlation's better, but I'm starting to think more into it. And I mean, so like this week, I mean, when Hurts gets you 38, it doesn't matter what any other quarterback does. I mean, I think Kyler might have got him by a little bit, or it was close, whatever direction it was. Yeah. But either way, like he's getting you right there. And then he plays the 2 cheap running backs, which obviously we didn't like Lenny, but he got 20. Once he gets this with his quarterback and his 2 value running backs getting 28 and 20, he is in position, and on top of it, his flex is a 5% Montgomery that gets 28.
I'm shocked that Montgomery is 5. I mean, I know there's a lot of good running back plays, and we talked about him a ton on all our shows, all our content this last week. But David Montgomery has been so good, and he's not a favorite of yours and I. We talk about him on the Showdown shows, but he has been very good the last like 5 weeks. To get him at 5% against, Vikings defense, not all that good. I mean, not a great defense. They've been better, not a good defense. To me, Montgomery was a really good play.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And he just looks good. And the Bears, man, 3 straight games they've scored in the 30s, and it was just a good play. I mean, especially when you get them 5% owned on top of it. he's got a lot of good plays in this team. I mean, we loved Hopkins. So basically, I've always heard people say this too. Like, as long as you got all number ones on your team, you got a chance to win. And even though Lenny and Pollard aren't great, they're number ones. Like, so you got 1-1, you got the best tight end. Montgomery's obviously a 1, and then Woods, Hopkins, Marvin, 1-1-1.
Yeah.
So his whole team right here, he doesn't have any scrubs in the team. There's no like just total punts. And what he does with this team, he gets rid of all of that New Orleans chalk that the value guys like Manny Sanders we like, Traquan we liked, Kamara he faded. He's fading all the unknown with Breeze coming back that it works out. He's fading Derrick Henry. He's fading a lot of chalk that we both ate. I loved those guys. You loved them. But honestly, I feel like I'm too chalky in tournaments a lot of times. I mean, look at these guys he's got. He's got Woods at 7%, Montgomery 5, Marvin 9, Lenny 14, Jalen was only 10, which we always talk about quarterbacks never.
Yeah, it's spread out, always spread out.
This is just a great, great tournament team. And Kelsey is only 27 with that massive floor where he did get some exposure to that game, so he at least had somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a good team. The crazy part is when someone wins first place, they almost always have something from their D. Like, you would think he'd have Dallas or something. He got a stinker from his D, and he still shipped it.
Still shipped. I mean, it's really nothing crazy when you look at this team. I mean, like you said, you're getting all guys that are the number one target, number one priority on the team's offense for the most part.
That's one way to not correlate, right? Like, I've heard a lot of smart people that study these things say that they feel good like that. Just basically, you want to, no matter how you build, you want the top guy from every spot, and then just see what happens.
And we continue to talk about it. I mean, Mangone and I have talked about on the show numerous times, is like so many people are going to the optimizers and saying, okay, if I play a quarterback, I need a wide, at least one wide receiver, and I need somebody on the other team to bring it back with. Me personally, I'm not as deep into the MME stuff, but with so many of these running quarterbacks, being the top plays week in and week out, like that kind of takes away from the need for correlation if these guys are going to score on the ground. I mean, you look at Hurts, you didn't need one of his pass catchers here because he spread it out to a bunch of different dudes, and he ran it a bunch too. So there's a bunch of different ways to build teams.
Who was even the next highest scoring guy from Philly?
I think Greg Ward. Greg Ward caught 2 touchdowns, but his 2 touchdowns, I think it only ended up being like 16 or 17 fantasy points. It wasn't a big number. So it would have been Greg Ward, I'm assuming. Now, Chop had another team, I believe, in the top 5 or 6.
Yeah,
right?
let's see what the difference was between the.
Yeah. So we can kind of see where he was at.
Hurts and Pollard are the same. Woods, Montgomery again. Defense doesn't really matter. I'm sure he's but he's got another high floor tight end too, Andrews instead of Kelsey. He's got Corey. So basically the pivot was what? Robinson, Davis, Andrews. I mean, it's the exact same team though, right? I mean, all these guys are good dudes. Corey Davis, maybe he's not a 1, but he's got upside. He's a really good player.
Play upside, yeah.
And James Robinson's a 1. So the same type thing you can kind of see. I mean, did he have any more? Let's see if we can find any more. Just out of curiosity. I have no idea how many he had in this thing.
Yeah.
Just because I'll be interested to see if some of the ones that didn't do as good, hopefully we can find one more. He had to have at least a couple more.
I'm curious how many teams he played.
The most awesome part about Chop, besides being humble, is he really doesn't fire like other people do, too.
No.
I guarantee he won't play above his head now either. Like the first time he didn't play above his head. He just goes about his bit. Here he is. Good. I wanted to find another one. So here's another one. This one's got Kyler, same 2 cheapies. He's got Kupp instead of Woods, but again, a number 1. J.D. McKissick was a number 1 this week, another value type guy. So this one, he had all 3 values. Rams D, same type thing. I guarantee you, without even talking to Head Shopper, these are optimizer builds where he's putting all the 1s in the thing. He's probably setting rules like don't play Kupp and Woods together, blah, 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 stuff that. Like this team right here is just as good as the winner, right? Except Kupp didn't get as much as Woods. And what else is different?
David Montgomery over McKissick. Same thing.
Same type build, though. Like, it easily could have got there as well. I mean, just good stuff.
Yeah.
Let's
So
look
I
at
mean,
DK.
obviously it's very high on Hopkins. Yeah, we're gonna head over and look at the DraftKings championship that was held this week. Before we do so, remember to hit the like button and subscribe so we can continue to bring you guys these videos. I mentioned in the opening we got the Monkey Knife Fight promo. It's use the promo code RunPure at checkout, $50 free, and then make sure you get in our Discord chat as well. We've been giving out some winners in there along the way. We have a good opportunity this weekend. They had Taysom Hill still in at quarterback, and he was battling against Mahomes, and it was like they were saying like Mahomes only needed to beat Taysom Hill by 5 points. Now, typically this would have been voided because the backup quarterback wouldn't get in the game. With Taysom Hill, you knew he was getting in the game, so we were able to take advantage of that. It locked in Mahomes, and I think the other side was like Kelsey or something. So it was a big opportunity to get on, and the entire Discord chat was all over it. So basically free money. And we're running a promo with them. If you screenshot a winning contest on Monkey Knife Fight, you use the hashtag RPSMKF. We'll pick 2 winners to give out some gear to, t-shirts or hats. That is hashtag RPSMKF. On your hashtag with your screenshot. Now let's talk about the DraftKings Live Final. How many people were in this thing? I think a couple hundred?
Yeah, I want to say 200. Oh, 200
200 entries. 200 entries.
200.
So yeah,
everyone got paid.
So you've been a part of these contests before. Why don't you just give us a quick rundown of like your mindset? I mean, so you're only competing against 200 people. You know the top prize. It's very top heavy. What sort of approach have you had in the past when building teams in these live final contests?
Yeah, I mean, you just even more so than usual, you want to get to the top. I think a lot of people make the mistake of building too cash oriented with like their one team because I mean the pay scale goes up, but you still those top couple spots are just so much heavier, and you're playing for first, you're playing for the shipper, the 2.5 million or whatever it was this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean you want to win first, so you should be building a pretty GPP heavy team in my opinion. That doesn't mean to fade all the good plays either. Like the dude that won, I mean Kamara 74%. So let me ask you this: if you knew Kamara was going to be 74%, you would have to fade, right? Like taking the results out.
Yeah.
God, in this format.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, it's tough.
That is massive ownership.
That's a huge number, and yeah, I mean, if something happens,
like if you knew for a fact though that it was going to be not like you think he's going to be high. Like I show you,
you're better. You know me. I'm bad with stuff like that. You're good with that. I mean, if you know that, it's easy fade for you.
That is a massive number for anybody. Like it could be any name on this sheet, and 70. Yeah. The only case where I think you would still eat it is Pollard on FanDuel, where it was just minimum priced. Like say Pollard on here was 4K, man. Like I think I would play him in any ownership.
Yeah, no matter
like
what.
Kamara still has looked bad lately. I know it was with Taysom, and he was a great play. I played him on every team.
They were using him weird though too. Yeah, you see all those drives where he wasn't even out there for the first 2. Like, how do you have a guy like
weird?
Isn't it weird how they're using him? Like how do you have a guy like Kamara and he's not out there almost every play? There are drives where he wasn't out on the field. It would be a Drew Brees incomplete pass, Latavius Murray for 2 yards, and Kamara wasn't on the field at all. Like, how do you not have him out there? Like, even if you know you're not going to use him for the first 2 plays, he needs to be on the field every play. They use him in a weird way.
No reason.
I mean, he got lucky. He got lucky to get there because Brees was a disaster. Their team was mostly a disaster. At halftime he was looking like a bust. Ends up getting the touchdown at the end, but it was a rough go for Kamara. Yeah, and 74%. You're probably right. Edmonds, man, I mean that he got 15.6. I mean, he's a guy I would have never even thought to clip
ever. Like in a million years would I have played him, man.
Yeah, and honestly, probably the difference maker though, because a lot of people that were going Kamara and Pollard were most likely, probably playing like a Derrick Henry or someone like that, which, Henry did good, but your teams are much different. You wouldn't have been playing a guy like Hopkins, who was the big difference maker. You wouldn't have been playing a guy like Ridley,
especially
Ridley's probably
together.
The reason. Yeah.
Like no one, I guarantee without even looking, I shouldn't guarantee, there might be one more, but they played both Hopkins and Ridley together. I mean,
yeah.
It's just not a build.
Then you come down another really low Smythe. I mean, he got 9 fantasy points, but all those Dolphins guys get ruled out. I'm assuming that's why he went Smythe. And then you got the Pollard Cowboys. So his team really won it at the end. I mean, Pollard had that long then that defensive touchdown. Pollard got the big
CD
touchdown.
Lamb,
The CD Lamb
onside kick touchdown.
where they all just, lay down in
God, I
that
wonder if
scenario.
that
He
beat
takes it
Brandon
to the. They
Adams.
had to have.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
Brandon Adams.
Yeah, that was the
He
difference.
lost by less than 6, and oh my God,
no one does it. Yeah,
BA.
no one. Yeah, that's a brutal one.
I mean, the onside kick touchdown is not a way that you should ever want to lose a live final.
Yeah, that's a
that was really late in the game too.
Oh yeah, that was it. What about click on Adam's team? Let's see if like the correlation that he has. So he's got Kyler, he's got Hopkins, and he went more typical correlation type build. Obviously didn't bring anything back on the Eagles side because there's just not really any pieces to bring back. He went got the Fournette run good there. He got Pollard obviously. So on DK, it looks like Ridley was the difference maker. They both had Ridley, only 7%. So only 7% went Ridley with no Julio. We talked about on the wood. He's been crushing every single week, only 7%. Mostly, I'm assuming because the price is finally up there at 8.2K. So he had Ridley and Hopkins. So that combination was really what you needed to get to the top here. It looks like in this live final.
Yep. You had the obvious one, Kyler, Hopkins, and then Ridley. Yeah, because no one else really scored that great. He got the lucky Fournette showing. Yeah. Pollard, I like this team better than the first place team just because you got a little bit – I would never have played, like you said, Edmonds. He was – I will give him credit, though, 4,400 in a high total at 1%. This is a perfect example of tournaments. If you could see that they had the big scandal the one year where everyone wondered if they could see the ownership. If you showed me these ownerships beforehand, I would have definitely considered Edmonds more and Kamara less, even though I played Kamara every team. If you know for a fact the guy's going to be 1% in a high total at 4,400, he becomes a really good play. And Ridley, at 82, 7%. These plays, Smithy or Smythe, however you say it, 1.5% is a great play.
I wonder with the Edmonds thing, because Kenyon Drake was questionable, right?
He was,
yeah. Kenyon Drake, so I bet he put Edmonds in and just kind of let it ride, right? That had to be
the weird part is, so yesterday I had 3 people in the Discord ask me questions regarding Edmonds, and I didn't understand it, but yeah. I think it's a lot to do with the price too. 4,400 is extremely cheap in that matchup. I didn't like it. I wouldn't have played him, but I can respect it at a low ownership at that.
Yeah, I wonder if he built this team and just never went back and got comfortable with it and just said, you know what, I'm still going to just let it ride on Edmonds.
Just going to go with it.
Yeah. Interesting.
Oh, so this dude had 1 and 6 too.
He was up there.
Oh, he had Brady in there.
Brady, Godwin. All right, some more correlation here. Brady, Godwin brought it back with Ridley.
Smythe on
Fournette as well. Smythe, he was on Smythe.
I just think the tight end, you know me, we've done these shows every week. I played whatever the Minnesota guys. I just think these cheap tight ends, if you're not playing Kelsey, I just think you go all the way down and just play these, especially when all those dudes got rolled out.
They continue to pop up on the winners. We've done this show. They continue. The cheap random tight ends continue to pop up in the winners week in and week out.
It's just so cheap. 2,500, 3K. You just get so much from that.
At a position where 70% of the players are going to underperform every single week besides Kelsey. If you're not getting to Kelsey, I just don't think there's any merit. You just go cheap. Honestly, it just continues to prove itself over and over. And it's different on FanDuel because the gap's not as big. On here, the gap's much wider. You can get a guy for 2.5K and the top guys are 8K. That's a 3-to-1 difference, more than 3-to-1 difference. So, Anything else in here?
No, I think it's good to look at all this stuff. People should look at this always.
Yeah, it's the most important thing you can do, honestly, when you're building teams. Just go back and kind of see, what the winners did. And some people get lucky to win. Some people, more skill involved. But, man, it's just always important to see what people are doing and if you need to change your style at all. But, all right, that's going to wrap it up.
One thing I just know that caught my eye as we're signing off. Yeah. So he played Brady, Fournette, and Godwin. You just talked about getting lucky. I just don't understand how you could ever play Lenny with Brady.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
Unless you think he's getting the passing work, and he did end up getting 3 receptions, but that was mostly in garbage time. Like he's a guy he's a goal line back. They're competing against each other for touchdowns. I mean, I agree in this scenario. Yeah, I definitely don't like that move. I don't want to criticize anyone for
No, I mean, and he won. So I mean, we're not criticizing that for sure. I mean, that's what it is. But man, and I mean, I know we've already said this, but 27% of people in a 50K value seat final played Uncle Lenny. I'm mind blown about that. I think he was a terrible play, but he did score twice.
Yeah, I mean, when you get the pot, I mean, obviously it's easy to say in hindsight, but I was considering Fournette a little bit on DK, but for me, once you get that Pollard news, it's over for me. Like I'm off Lenny. Like
I wouldn't be trashing it near as much either if Pollard didn't open up, because one value guy's fine. I mean, I didn't like him, but it was fine. It was what it was. What would he have been on without Pollard? Like 70?
Oh man, yeah, it would have. I mean, definitely over 50% in this thing for sure. I mean, people love cheap value plays. He's just not good, man. I mean, Fournette is just not good. The risk was there. I mean, they basically didn't dress because they didn't want him on the field the week before. Now he's the lead back. It was definitely
he should have never got 21. Like, it sounds like we're being sour grapes, but there is no chance he played good enough to get 21 fantasy points.
No, hell no. I mean, fell into 2 touchdowns. I mean, there's nothing more you can really say about it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. We're going to get on out of here. That will wrap up the cash/tournament lineup review show for week 15. We'll be back for results in week 16. Very spread out schedule for week 16. We got a showdown on Christmas, got a 3-game slate on Saturday, the big main slate on Sunday. So a lot of contests around the industry. Good luck to everyone in week 16. We'll be back to review it early next week. For Big T, I'm Hoop. Good luck, everyone, in your contest moving forward.